Right, we're back with another episode. This is going to be a little bit different. This is a new series that we're going to go through. Ultimately, our goal with this kind of podcast, there's a bunch of us here. We sit down on a Thursday as your team, and we sit together and we devise your plans and we talk shit about you and we elevate you and make sure the team are doing what they're supposed to do. But in these episodes, we're trying to make sure that you get a balanced argument of what science, education, on really big topics, kind of how you can uncover the decisions for yourself. You'll have thought processes about things like protein, which we're going to cover today, and things like when you should train, when you should eat, what calories do, all these things. And we're going to play devil's advocate against each other. I want you to see how balanced arguments on both sides of the coin. You're going to see a lot on social media about different variations of like, this is right, this is wrong. And what we're really going to do is we're going to give you the wrong or the right and the wrong and the right. We're going to debate using our own expertise to then find a middle ground so that you guys know what is right and what is wrong, that you can then make your decisions and change your identity, beliefs, and your education about particular topics from having both sides of the coin instead of just listening to one person who you believe the person. I want you to understand the concepts around it. So these guys are going to be arguing today against me, and we're going to be taking protein as a large topic and breaking down common beliefs around things like when you should have your protein, what we call the anabolic window, how much protein can you absorb, and they're going to argue for it and I'm going to argue against it. And during that time period, we're going to find a middle ground and real life solutions that you can put into practice so you can see that too. The first one is anabolic windows.
Okay, anabolic window. There has been arguments on timing and when you should absorb protein, when you should digest protein, when you should eat your protein. Ingesting amino acids before your workout doubled the net uptake into muscles compared to post-workout. Timing kicks recovery into gear immediately. There was actually a study done by Tipton et al., make sure I get that name right, used amino acid carb drinks before and after resistance exercise. Pre-exercise ingestion led to significantly greater net amino acid uptake, 209 mg versus 81 comparison to post. Common things would be eating your post-workout meal, a specific time after your workout, perhaps maybe half an hour to an hour only. Some people would drink a protein shake just before their workout or opposite, just after, just to make sure they hit that anabolic window, let's say. The most optimal protein intake.
I don't think the anabolic window matters, and that's for two reasons. Why? Because there's been studies in 2013 looking at meta-analysis, and if you don't know what meta-analysis is, it is the analytics of research. So it's a meta, all of the research, all together, and they basically looked at, there was no significant hypertrophy or strength benefits from peri-workout protein. So what that means is like, in the research that Leah has, in the research that you have, is that you have a increase in what we call like the micrograms of amino acid uptake. Just because something goes up in data doesn't mean that it actually leads to muscle growth at the end. The same way that your blood sugar goes up doesn't mean that you're going to have a crash at the end of it, or it doesn't mean that you're going to stop fat loss, or it doesn't mean that you're going to be a type 2 diabetic. Numbers can go up. It doesn't mean that the outcome at the end is going to change. So what the research did is that they said, okay, fuck your little amino acid thing. And they said, did it actually build muscle tissue? And it showed that there was no greater benefit of having protein powder after a workout or before a workout or like in this particular window for actually building muscle, which is the overall goal of why people would chug down protein shakes and stuff like that. Basically, in short, that they looked at research at where they had ingested protein at different parts in the day as opposed to particular windows. And then they looked at the overall muscle building capabilities and strength building capabilities. And there was no difference. So then from my side is that all these people who rushing to finish their workouts and drink a protein shake, and then they think that their workout is wasted because they're not eating protein shakes, they're doing it for no reason. You don't need to be as particular, and therefore you don't need to stress about the elements of when to have it and when not to have it. Now, the middle ground, Judy is the middle ground.
Yeah, that's very interesting what you guys wrote in from both aspects, because we always think that working out, we're actually breaking down muscle fibers, and then you want to have protein afterwards to build muscle fibers and get stronger for the next workout. I think we can settle for middle ground here for both of us, is that if you are working out on an empty stomach, if you're fasting, I would believe that having a protein shake or your amino acids 30 to 60 minutes after a workout would be really beneficial. It depends on, some people like to work out empty stomach. Some people do not have the strength to work out on empty stomach. Otherwise, if you're not able to do that, I believe focusing on distributing your protein across 3 to 4 meals per day, that would ensure consistent intake of protein throughout the day. And that would eliminate the idea of like, did I hit my protein target? Am I going to have it before my workout, after my workout? So consistency is key in keeping up. And pro tip for you guys, South Asian community, all of us, right? Working with all of you guys, always add a scoop of whey protein post-workout to your smoothie, but don't stress the exact minutes. So it doesn't have like, 30 minutes after the workout, 35 minutes minutes, I lost the window. Just do it after workouts, and I think you should be fine.
The closing points on that from me is that this is all solved, whether it's like my view, which is the total intake matters across the day, or Leah's, which is you get an uptake when you have it at specific times. Both of them are just solved by having protein at your meals and having 3 to 4 servings. Like, because like the reality is like, when do most people go to the gym? They go to the gym in the morning at 7 a.m. before work, or they go to the gym after work. Very rare people like us, we get the luxury of going whenever we really want. Even if we went at 2 p.m., we would be having a meal at lunchtime anyway, which is 12, and then we'd have another meal at 5 or 6 anyway. You're eating like a normal human. So therefore, by the product of having lunch and dinner and breakfast, and you train either before, middle, during, or after, you're going to hit your protein before and after. So just have a normal structure with food. Don't do any like fasting bollocks, or don't do any missing of meals, and don't stress about it too much. Just have a normal structure around eating. Okay, so BCAA supplements, they're a supplement that you get from any type of Tom, Dick, and Harry supplement store, and they are popularized or marketed as like a recovery drink, and people see it as effectively what BCAAs are. You've got protein, so let's say a chicken breast, and when you eat it, it gets digested into what we call amino acids. These amino acids are the things that kind of go to your brain, they go to your muscle, they trigger off muscle building, they promote recovery, they go to your hair, skin, and nails to improve those. That's what amino acids are. Now, BCAAs, and the bright idea from a marketing perspective is, okay, well, why don't we break them down in the testing phase and in the production phase, so that it doesn't have to come as like a whey protein subject, protein powder, it's not dairy based, a little bit more refined, and then you just get straight the amino acids. You know, you're getting the best of the best straight off the bat. There are multiple amino acids, and BCAAs cover all of them, not just the essential ones too. The for this, I'm going to argue for having BCAA supplements, is a meta-analysis in 2021 looked at the influx of BCAAs reduced muscle soreness and creatine kinase post-exercise. So creatine kinase is the byproduct in your blood work, also known as creatinine, which you see in your blood panels, that kind of goes higher when you have creatine or exercise really rigorously. It's a byproduct of recovery. So you contract your muscles really hard, and there's these byproducts, which is called creatine kinase. So it decreased those areas too. So having these BCAAs allows you to recover quicker, it allows you to get faster recovery, and then allows you to then train harder next time. And then if you have less soreness, you're more likely going to push yourself next time. So for me, BCAAs in this scenario, when I'm arguing for, is not only that as well, if you look at vegetarians to South Asians that are vegetarian, is that the amino acids that are required for building muscle and recovery is what we call leucine. Now, most South Asians don't have enough leucine in their diet because they eat things like dal, rajman chana, and all of these things, and they think things like spinach and broccoli got protein in. Is that if you have something like BCAAs, you're actually getting the actual thing, which is leucine, to promote the muscle building, the muscle soreness and recovery. So instead of using your not great protein sources, getting the BCAAs in allows you to actually get better sources of protein, which could help your recovery and your soreness and your muscle building. Up the BCAAs.
Okay, BCAAs are cool, but alone don't trigger full muscle building. So without the other 6 essential EAAs, essential amino acids, you're leaving gains on the table. You can get your essential amino acids from foods, protein, vegetables, or you can just buy EAAs rather than BCAAs. You know, you're hitting all everything that you need all at once, rather than individual supplement that's only targeting 1 or 2 things. There was a study of Wittard et al. Reported that BCAAs alone only partly stimulate muscle protein synthesis. So again, only partly. Full essential amino acids are required for optimal muscle building. And again, if you have a nice balanced diet, you get your protein in, have a source of every meal, have your vegetables, you'll be fine.
Yeah, both arguments are pretty solid. I don't know who to side with, but in order to go as a middle ground here for you guys, it's all about the real life application. So whether you have BCAAs or essential amino acids, even if you're having them during fasting or long workouts, make sure that they are not replacing your full meals. So make sure that you're getting your protein from the full meals as well. And for you guys, vegetarians out there, we got to take care of you. So make sure that you guys are focusing on complete protein combos and sources. Like you're having rice, you got lentils, soy, plus the dairy as well. An additional tip for you guys is that use BCAAs if you're hitting the gym 4 to 5 times a week and still consuming protein from food. Essential part here is the consistency of your protein intake from your primary meals throughout the day.
I would just say as well is that whether it's BCAAs or EAAs, food will always come first, regardless. And then if you don't like eating before a workout, let's say for example, you don't like eating in the morning and you don't want to have yogurt or a protein powder or something like that, this EAAs or BCAAs, whichever one, probably EAAs, I'll side with you, EAAs is much better. You get the flavored, they're fruity, and therefore you can just sip it like a normal like cordial drink like Robinson's, you're going to get a bit of protein, you're going to get everything that you need instead of having a full-blown meal if you don't want meals. But it's not a replacement for you veggies. If you're having your dal, subsies and rice, you want to kind of get something that has the leucine in, which is the essential amino acid for muscle building. So you want to have like EAAs or BCAAs with a traditional meal is an easy way to go with as well, 5 to 10 grams. Pretty nice to do that, especially if you're going to have more traditional meals than westernized meals. There is also a part of this as well, this is personal experience, is that when you have EAAs or BCAAs around your workout, it's the psychology of making a drink and going to the gym and getting serious about it can actually help you mentally to focus.
Yeah,
So I've got my drink. You're like,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
For sure.
So it's like, whether it's your pre-workout or your pre-gym coffee or it's your EAAs, get that scoop in, your tart's taking a sip. Psychologically, that's a habit building of this is the time to do my workout. This is the time to get serious. And sometimes, as much as it might look like most of the stuff around supplements like this are all like, what are the benefits to my body? Sometimes you have to take care up here. And some days you don't want to go to the gym, but you've got your EAAs, you take that first sip and it's like blood orange. You're like, okay, I'm going to the gym now. I'm ready to go. So that could be a good tip as well. There are all different supplement types when it comes to protein. So you've got your whey protein, you've got your blooming mass gainers, you've got anything in those big tubs that you will associate as protein. They're not always the same. And as well as that, you've got different flavors and variations from everything from clear whey to whey protein to soy to beef to collagen. You've got every single thing. Now, what you have to recognize when we look at protein supplements before we go into the for and against is like 50% of this is marketing and you all fall for it. It's $1 trillion industry. Half of the shit that's there isn't meant to be there for your consumption. It's there for you to spend your money on it. So there are quality issues with anywhere that you go. There's even some research right now going on with creatine gummies, which is not protein supplements, but it's just topical that's going on right now. It's like there's gummies that are 0% creatine when they're supposed to be 5 grams per thing. So they're underdosing it. In the UK, there was a scandal maybe 5 to 10 years ago with a company called MyProtein. Their whey protein advertised as 70% protein and it was actually 45% protein. So it's the reputation of the brand, the quality, and we're not talking just like the quality of the packaging or the way that they promote their brand as like healthy, natural, Doesn't mean that they're going to be not underdosing. You have to get good quality variables. So things I would recommend if you're going to go down this, things like Dimetize, Optimum Nutrition, Ghost, any others which you would recommend protein wise?
In the US, you got Naked Nutrition. It's pretty good.
Naked Nutrition, that's more like the vegan ones, right? Anyway, so we're going into the for and against. Should you be taking like protein supplements? What's the benefit of doing that as well? So with the protein intake, when we're looking at the specifics around the variables. So you've got things like whey protein, which are super, super quick absorbing, which allow you to kind of get that protein into the cell because it's easily digestible. You've got obviously the pea proteins, you've got the quality, you've got the absorption rates, which obviously matter the most. And that's why like something like whey protein versus casein is different. You want to kind of prioritize your protein supplement type depending on what time you're having it and what day you're having it. So casein is a longer acting protein, which means that it digests over multiple hours. So normally, hypothetically, you want that in the evening. So when you're asleep, you're not going into a catabolic state. And then whey protein is that you want something directly after your workouts. If we're going against that thing before, you want it directly. And when you have it, it's absorbed into your system over like a 25 minutes. So the types of proteins, arguing against 4 right now. So you'd have specific proteins for particular times in the day, different types for different amino acids, different types for if you want it absorbed quickly with whey protein. We want good quality so you can digest it.
Okay, I think personally what truly matters is consistency and hitting goals. Type of protein, that's just preference in my opinion. Of course, people who can't have dairy or any dairy-derived products, they're not going to choose whey protein, are they? So again, we're kind of going back to kind of that anabolic window point as well. Yes, okay, casein, pea protein might take longer in the day to digest, but it's going to digest throughout the day, of course. There was a study done, an umbrella review found that there was no significant difference in muscle outcomes based on protein type. Total intake was the key drive. And again, it just goes back to that point that total intake throughout the day is what matters. No anabolic window. Doesn't matter which type, as long as, again, you're consistent with it, you're getting a protein source within every meal, you'll be fine.
I would say the thing on that is actually, and this is harder to argue for than it is against, there's a caveat to that, which is you can't take the same advice and put it into protein sources that people cook. It doesn't reign true the same, like pea protein versus whey protein is not the same as chana versus a chicken breast, because the protein powders are made with a particular base standard in place, which is high protein that comes from like leucine or different EAAs, whereas a chana is made a chana. Like that's what it is, you know? So you can't change that. So the only caveat when we're looking at protein supplements is the supplement part. You can't take the information from, there's no difference between pea protein, beef protein and whey protein and casein in terms of the quality of absorption absorption or whatever like that. But there is differences in real life food that gets protein in. So that's the caveat.
Absolutely. I totally agree with the arguments here, and they totally make sense. If we look at that from our perspective for real life application, you guys, I would say choosing the protein type is based on your preferences, how your digestive system works. Like, some people are lactose intolerant. Like, it's clear that you go with the vegan protein or the wheat protein. Or if you're vegetarian, for instance, some people don't like the milky taste and they prefer the clear whey, for example, or they want to have the beef protein now that is like coming up, doesn't have to do with whey. So it's all about that preference as long as you're hitting that target. Most importantly, as we have been discussing since the beginning of the podcast, is focus on your meals, you guys. Your meals, hitting your protein target on your meals is really essential. And the protein, as it's called, is a supplement. So we supplement it with the other things that we are having. Don't obsess over the brand. Yes, the bioavailability and whatnot. Make sure that you're having a good brand, a clean brand that would make the difference for you. And a South Asian tip for you guys is that mix one whey protein scoop with your chapati dough or with your dosa batter, and then there you got it. Your dosa suddenly turns into a full protein.
Dosa.
Yeah, there you go.
Love it. I guess the key word there is supplement, isn't it? It's a supplement, not a solution. So as long as, again, your meals are balanced, you're getting your protein in throughout the day, choosing which supplement, again, based on the preferences you mentioned, will obviously help you.
Absolutely.
The next topic is max absorption per meal. So within the realm of life, people, especially when they get into the fitness industry, they get this information that whether it's 30 grams, 40 grams, 50 grams, 20 grams, their body can't absorb as much in a particular time. It's obviously a common theme. And for the 4, which is I'm going to be a 4, making sure that you get your cap of muscle building per like maximum meal, is like there's research by Schoenfeld and Aragon, who are my 2 favorite OGs who I used to learn from back in the day. 2023 suggests that muscle protein synthesis maxes out at around 20 to 25 grams per meal in young adults, and then anything after that, eating 80 grams of protein in one meal isn't just ideal. Your body stops synthesizing effectiveness after 25. Basically, it's like, why would I have more? What's the point in having more than 25, 30 grams in a meal if I'm not going to be able to use it? So that would mean that if we're going to go on this as max absorption, if you wanted to hit 150 grams, it means that you would probably have to have around 7 servings of food across a day that have protein in, and that way that you'd maximize your absorption rate per meal, and that would give you, hence why you see bodybuilders eat 6 to 7 meals a day. It doesn't mean that it's right or wrong or true or false. It's just that they're maximizing their cap per meal, so they're getting the most out of it every time that they eat that 25 grams of protein.
So while not yet widespread, emerging acute trials and practical experience show that higher single meal protein intake still supports synthesis over extended periods. Again, this is newer findings, it's newer information that's coming out. Obviously, it suggests that your system can actually process more if it's spread across longer digestion windows. So don't stress, again, with single meal totals. And again, it depends what's optimal for your schedule, what's optimal for your daily routine. Is it optimal for you to eat 6 meals a day when you're working a 9 to 5 and you're trying to work out before and you've got kids to look after afterwards? No. So if it's easier to get your protein intake spread across maybe 3 to 4 meals throughout the day, that's still better than just giving up and not eating the protein at all because your window says it won't absorb.
Yeah. I agree. There's a difference between what people think as a myth, which is it just gets pissed out. It still gets used. What the study from Schoenfeld and Aragon is showing is that the cap of effectiveness, so that's like you got a vase of flowers. If you have flowers and have water in the bottom of the stem, whether you put an inch in or 2 inches, it's still water in the flowers. Whereas if you put 3 inches in, it doesn't really matter. But as long as you got that first inch, it still be absorbed. So it's a terrible analogy. Basically, there's a difference between 25 grams effectiveness for muscle building, which is what the study was about. And this is always the key context, is like, what are they trying to study? So they're trying to study how much muscle can be grown from the protein that you create. But that doesn't mean that the other benefits of the other amino acids that protein gives you, your hair, skin, nails, your cognitive function, your digestive function, all the things that are a kind of recycling on a day-to-day basis where you have to increase in this uptake of protein on a consistent basis, is that still doesn't mean that they're not going to get use. If anything, you might hit a cap or may even not hit a cap based on the research. It doesn't mean that it's wasted. Nothing is wasted in the body. You can't just eat it and then nothing happens unless it's water, because it just gets through and it's hydrated. Everything gets taken for something. You might just not get more massive by eating X amount of protein in one meal, but it doesn't mean that there's not other benefits going on at the same time. And normally people hyper obsess about the muscle protein synthesis, but they don't forget that, well, if I don't have enough amino acids, L-arginine or L-theanine, I'm not going to be able to regulate my nervous system very well. I'm going to be a wiry wreck all of the time if I'm deficient in L-theanine. So then just don't take your protein and you might not be a wreck.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you guys always hear it from your coaches every day. Hit your protein target. Did to hit your protein target? Like, what was your protein on that meal? It was like heavy in carbs. So to break it down, I think it's all about simplicity and practicality. So without you overthinking about, like, you make sure that you are hitting between 25 to 40 grams of protein per meal and spread those across the day so that you are able to hit them. And that keeps you consistent with your meals. If on these occasions that you're skipping a meal or there's an event and there's, like, bigger meals happening, which we don't recommend, but they are spread across 4 hours, then that ensures that you're hitting that consistent protein intake. As Nathan mentioned with bodybuilders, that they spread their meals across 6 meals and they spread them out so that they ensure that at the end of the day, don't worry about wasting protein. Nothing goes to waste. It makes sense that nothing goes to waste. Our body will store it. Make sure that you are consistent with your protein intake. The key here is consistency.
Yeah, and then the last thing on that is, like, each day will change as well. One day you might have a bigger meal because you've skipped a meal or you missed a meal or someone else might be cooking. It's all about then the regulation over that long term, over a week, day, a month, a year. It's like, can you get enough of those meals in? And, like, if you have 3 meals a day and you go up to 40, 50 grams a meal, that's okay. And then if you want smaller things across the day, then, you can go to 25 grams. It's totally cool. And getting really familiar with what the 25 to 50, 40 grams looks like on a plate, I think is really important. Like, we can say these numbers because we know, but I think if someone knows that, 100 grams of raw chicken is about 25 grams of protein and that looks like a small chicken breast, then the reference point is there if they ever want to get it from somewhere else. So having those, like, going through your own process of, like, weighing your food, understanding the right portion sizes, what 150 grams of chicken looks like, what 120 grams of beef looks like, salmon, chana, whatever it is, tempeh, tofu, paneer, look what a normal serving of that looks like to get 25 grams. And then you won't be too surprised when you're eating out. You've got different environments. You have to eat outside. You have to pick from somebody else's menu, someone else's house. You can then ensure that roughly you get this amount and you don't just go, oh, well, they didn't have protein. It's like, well, if you knew what you were looking for, you knew what they roughly look like, you don't need to worry whether it's 30 or 35. You just made the best attempt to get your protein in consistently. I guess with protein is, I guess we just said it there about the tracking and the element of eating specific grams versus, like, the need and desire for most people not to want to think about food. Maybe 4 years ago when I was coaching, and definitely there's been a flip in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe with AI, with tech, with people's interest, but I couldn't get anyone to track the calories 7 years ago. They thought it was obsessive. They thought it was weird. They thought it was too much, too restrictive, whatever it was. And that kind of made it hard for, people to kind of get really good results. Or equally, it's seen as the right thing to do for their long-term sustainability, not to think about anything at all and hopefully naturally get it in. And what tends to happen is, like, 2 camps. You can either be in the camp of knowing the numbers, which I think is probably in the last 2 or 3 years, the South Asian community have really, really drove hard on what's my protein intake, how much I need to get, how do I get this in with traditional food, how do I get it in with westernized food, how do I get it in when I'm eating out? And there's an obsessive over maybe some more tracking stuff, maybe to a fault now, where everyone wants to know the numbers in things in areas that you have no business knowing the numbers, like eating out, like you're never going to get the numbers. On the flip side, there's still camps of people that think that they can get their results or hit their protein intake without actually tracking. They don't know their arse from their elbow with what protein looks like. So then therefore they hope to get it done and then they end up coming well short. So that's the argument that we're going to place. I'm going to place it on the 4, which is that you can meet your protein intakes naturally without tracking. If you eat whole meal foods such as lentil, paneer, curd, like the paneers, the tofus, if you eat enough of that and have consistency across a day's period, surely you'll be somewhere close. Whether it's 25 grams or 30 grams, your best guess is that you're going to have protein on your plate and that should be good enough. For you, the research is that found that habits-based eating and food illiteracy improved diet quality and protein intake even without digitally tracking. So that means that if you improve your habits, so for example, like as Judy was saying, consistently eat protein per meal, then that gives you a better outcome of your protein intake because it's the habit rather than like forced tracking. It's not like mental arithmetic or mathematics. It's when I eat out or when I have a meal, I need that serving there to be a protein every single day. That's going to be a really, really good thing. And then, if people eat diverse, they eat well-balanced meals, they understand portion sizes, they should be able to hit their protein targets without logging every bite. So that's what I think is the key part here, is habit-based eating can get you there if I'm going to argue for this particular topic.
Most people underconsume their protein if they don't track, especially when it comes to the South Asian community. Again, you don't have to track forever, as mentioned. So you don't need to track forever, as mentioned. But if you don't even estimate for a week or two what you might think your protein intake is, for example, you have a roti and some dal, is that going to be enough protein in one meal? We don't know. So that's why when the tracking comes in handy. It's very easy to fall short, especially when most meals are carb dominant, especially with the South Asian diet, as I'm sure you guys know. Lots of carbs, lots of fats, and protein is actually something that we find hard to incorporate into our meals. So a supporting study found that actually self-reported protein intake was significantly overestimated in non-tracking groups. So people were thinking they were eating more than they actually were. And again, there's a report that suggested 73% of Indians consume less than the RDA for recommended daily amount for protein. So again, it's just that argument of specific diet, especially when it comes to the South Asian community, having enough protein within your meals when mostly they're predominantly carbs and fats.
Yeah, absolutely. Both arguments seem fair, and I can relate to this as well. Like, personally, as we are all getting ready for this photo shoot and we're trying to hit our protein diet, I feel like it's based on what you're working for, whether you're dieting or not. Like, let's say you're bodybuilding phase and you want to build really muscle, then I feel like I need to track to know exactly what I'm getting per meal. But I also understand the point that from a sustainability point of view, I want to live my life, and I'm probably like, not competing or don't have a photo shoot or anything like that. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna like learn how to look at protein, as you mentioned as well, looking at a chicken breast, for example. And okay, when I weigh that week in, week out, I know that, okay, this has 25 grams or 30 grams of protein, and that's where I ballpark and carry on with my day. So both arguments I feel can be pro for the reasons and the goals that you are working towards.
I think just on this, but the middle ground really is both.
Yeah. It's a tough one, isn't it, actually?
So I think I want to go into like psychology for a minute. If we assume that we don't know what we think we know, which is everything, most people's issues around food is that they assume to either be overestimating or underestimating. And normally the level of obesity that they have derives that percentage either higher or lower. So normally the larger you are, the more you underestimate your food, and the more you overestimate how much exercise you do. Like the more in shape you are, the more true, close to norm that you are. What the best option is, you need like a rude awakening to start with. In a job, people need to show you how perfect looks like to do that job. If you work in Subway, they need to show you how the sandwich is made perfectly before you can freeball it a little bit and get a bit saucy. And that's the same with food, and tracking protein is you need to know what good looks like, so that when you start slipping off a little bit, which is totally normal as a human, when your eyes get a little bit adjusted to those serving sizes and you start going a bit smaller and smaller, which will happen naturally, you need to know what great looks like first, so you can start at 100% and go down to 80. If you start from the bottom, which is basically you not knowing and underassuming all of the time, you may increase a little bit, but you'll never reach the number that you need because you're so far away mentally. And it's all about the psychological game. For me, when you look at the middle ground is track portion sizes specifically for the first 14 to 21 days. Have that moment of awakening of like, hey, I'm way off, or oh, I didn't realize I needed this much, or wow, I didn't realize maybe I was overdoing it. Maybe it was I was going too hard on the protein. You've got those American clients that just eat protein everything and they just overdo it on the calories because they eat too many calories as opposed to protein. And then move away from it once you've maybe you got your goals, or you're moving towards the end of your dieting phase where you've got it kind of from a habitual perspective, and then move towards more habit-based eating at the end. But the caveat is that knowing human psychology, you have to bring it back round again to the top again. So at some point in the next 6 to 12 months to 18 months, you want to do another 1 to 2 weeks to realign yourself. In life, we get thrown off everywhere. It's about course correction. So every 12 to 18 months, it's redirecting am I doing what I think I'm doing? And I think that cycle there taps into human psychology, taps into human behavior of where we're shit. Then it allows us to live the easiest for the longest with the most amount of results that come from it. That's it. Okay.
Khalas.
Khalas, Habibi. Okay. Nice work, guys. Thank you guys for listening to this. It was hopefully you found this useful, a little bit different than normal. And we're going to break down topics all the way through to get for and against it, so you can find that middle ground. And hopefully some of these you'll change your opinion on. You'll hear what maybe some of the for and against, and maybe you sit in one of those camps. And most importantly, we want you to get out of a camp and make a decision that's right, that's practical, that's easy, and will get you the best results possible too. So, yalla.